Hello, everybody. This is the Fourth Line Podcast. I'm Ozzy.
I'm Kayden.
And I'm Ian.
We're sitting here watching overtime of the Montreal Canadiens versus the hockey clubs. Any guesses on what's going to happen here?
I think Keller. Keller's going to get a sneaky one, rip it 5-hole, game over, send the boys home.
Genther's hot. I got Genther.
I'm going to sound like a pessimist here. I think we're going to lose, but haven't had much to cheer for recently. So
Get out.
Yeah, if we just have a random reaction, we apologize if we just scream and blow up your AirPods. But so let's talk hockey while we're watching this. This is going to be hard to focus. But the Beehive Classic wrapped up this past weekend. Shout out Weber State. They went 4-0. They swept for the whole weekend. I know Utah hockey off the top of my mind. University of Utah had one loss. Oh, snap. They had one loss to number 1 ranked Montana State, which is they're a tough team.
It was actually a good game, too. They only lost 4-3.
Yeah,
it was a one-goal game against Montana State.
They're looking solid. They're a wagon. I think Utah State also, they had 3 wins, 1 loss. They lost to
LMU.
Yeah, Loyola Marymount. They're number 3 behind Weber.
And that was also a close game.
Yeah,
that was a one-goal game as well.
Solid play, and then UVU, they went 2-2. But had a big win against Montana Tech. So shout out to them. Kayden, I know you were at a high school game this week. Yeah, give a shout out to the Llamas.
Yeah, shout out to the Llamas. Their roster is unbelievable. Me and Ian did look at their record.
How are you guys so mid? I'm just gonna. The only reason I can say that is because I know these boys. I know these players. Like, there are some really good travel players, and guys that are wanting to go on to play higher level hockey, and I'm not seeing you guys step up at all. You came up big against Brighton. It was actually a good third period. It was a close game all game. Had a solid third period.
Did they pull it off? Did they end up winning?
They did. It was 5-2 was the final. But
come on, boys.
I'm expecting more. I think that you guys can pull up on some big games, bury some more goals, get the puck to the net, play big boy hockey, and you guys will be just fine. I am just expecting more out of them. I was kind of surprised.
Yeah, I looked at that roster. I haven't seen the Llamas play. Showed up at the rink in the second period. They were tied to Brighton, and I started seeing some of the boys that were on that roster, and jeez, that roster's stacked. So, Llamas.
Hey, maybe they're doing the Tampa Bay thing where they just don't try in the regular season and then they show up for the playoffs. I don't know.
Beat Park City.
Yeah,
That's true.
Speaking of Park City, next week is the game of the week. Okay, East High, Park City.
Ooh,
book it. Okay?
1 and 2.
East High's 2. They've got 1 loss against Brighton. It was a 5-6 game, I believe. Like, they lost by 1 goal in the third. East is a wagon. Park City, they're looking unstoppable. So we'll see. This is what happens when an unstoppable force meets an unmovable object, okay? Oh, freak, we almost just turned it over. Sorry.
Is it in Park City? Do we know where the game's going to be?
Ooh, I think it's Salt Lake. If it's Park City, they get a little bit of a crowd up there. The high school kids kind of pack their student section, and it's kind of nasty. I don't know if I'm not sure if East gets a good student section out. You'd think with them having a good year, but yeah. So that's going to be a game to watch. So, yeah, we got an interview here with
Can I give a shout out?
Yeah.
Shout out Twilla Hockey. Got their first win, I think, in what they said 3 years.
There's hockey in Twilla.
There is hockey in Twilla.
Let's
they
go.
They got to win. They're building. So
let's go. Shout out. First win. First of many.
Varsity win.
Let's go, dude.
Putting things together. So shout out to them.
That's
They're actually
amazing.
looking good.
Yeah,
They're looking really good.
Let's do it.
Wanted to give them a shout out.
Yeah. Also, shout out to I can't remember if we gave a shout out on our first episode, but the girls. Shout out to the girls' high school hockey going on. That's legit. Yeah. Congrats on existing. Like, that's seriously just having 3 girls teams in Utah that aren't a travel team, that are all just high school girls. That's so legit. Can't wait to see that grow. All right, now off to our interview. Cowabunga Bay legend. Troasty in the house, all right?
All right, everyone. Welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast. Today we have UVU legend, Beach Babe, Jared Troast. So Jared Troast, you 4 years at UVU?
Yeah, this is going on number 4 right now. So
4 years at UVU. Played for West Coast, now Wasatch Renegades, and then I believe he came here from California. Right?
yes, sir.
That's right. So we got a transplant.
Yeah, another transplant.
Danger.
They were to a club.
No, this is cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on, dude. This is cool. I'm excited. Yeah.
Yeah, we're excited. We were just talking before this how you've kind of seen a lot at UVU as far as the last 4 years. There's been a lot of changes in the program,
For sure.
as far as talent goes, and respectfully, like as many W's as you guys are getting, it's kind of changed a little bit too. So we're excited to get to know that. But can we just ask before we start, like, how did you get to Utah? Because you came from California.
Yeah. So my family moved out here when I was 10. It was just because like my dad's work. It wasn't like anything special. It was just because of my dad's work. And when I was in California, I think California is a very underrated place for youth hockey. I think it's not talked about enough. At 6, 8 years old, you're thrown into the SCAHA is what it's called. So it's like Southern California Hockey Association, whatever it is. And there's like 40 to 50 teams, and it's really, really competitive. And that's kind of how I got my jump with hockey. I ended up playing for the LA Junior Kings, which is one of the coolest things ever. And like you play at the Toyo Sports Center, which is, if you've been there, it's where the Kings practice. And then that was a really cool experience. Our goalie ended up being our goalie's dad was the Kings like equipment manager, which was really cool. So I got that experience at an early age. So it was a bit of a culture shock moving out here and kind of seeing there's maybe 5 AA teams out here or whatever it is, and there's kind of 2 around the time that could beat each other. It's kind of like us and like I say us. I ended up playing for like the Junior Grizzlies for 1 year, and then going up the West Coast and with we had the Junior Outliers for a year or 2. But it's definitely a culture shock, and I think like just seeing that growth in itself was something that's been really cool. But moving out here, Darren Peck, who's now my coach at UVU, he ended up being my first coach at the Junior Grizzlies. So he kind of took us under his wing and kind of adjusted me to the hockey life in Utah, I guess you could call it. But I think I've been very thankful here to see where it's grown to, and even from that young of an age, when you're 10 years old to where I am now, it's been really cool. So yeah,
That's legit.
yeah.
So one thing I know me and you have talked about, we both played under the legends Kevin McClellan.
I was hoping for this one.
Yeah, good old Mac.
Oh yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, we both played for West Coast when we played under Kevin McClellan. I believe he's a 4-time Stanley Cup champ, right?
Correct.
Four-time Stanley Cup
Yeah,
champ.
it lets everybody knows it too. Make sure to remind everybody.
Oh, for sure. I have some stories. We both have some stories. But
Is he whipping out rings to show everybody?
oh, dude. So
Any chance?
the funniest one ever for me though. So we're in a game, like a ref makes an iffy call, and like, and so they come to the bench. They're like barking at each other, and he just says like, or what did he say? Let me think about this. He's like, look me up. You'll find me on the Stanley Cup 4 times. And the ref just like his jaw drops and he like skates away like.
Oh, and that's countless times too. That's not a one-time thing. Yeah, I think I've seen that probably like 5 times to see
What
what
you even say to that? As like, as a ref making like $30 an hour, you're built like a Ring doorbell. So like, because you played with Gretzky, right?
Yeah,
Is he on? Yeah. That's
yeah.
unreal.
Most of his career was, I think, being Gretzky's bodyguard. So he's a pretty sick job.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah.
But he actually scored a game winner to send them, I believe, to the Stanley Cup Finals.
He'll remind
He'll
you.
remind you of that. Let's
Yeah, that's a good.
Yeah, so cool. But yeah, I don't know. Do you have any?
Yeah, I mean, I've been very lucky with my coaches out here. I think Max one that unfortunately I haven't seen in years, but I would kill to sit down with kind of like this for like just like 10 minutes.
We'll
Pick the guy's brain.
we're trying to get him on the.
I'll
get you on.
that. I mean, like one of my like you said, like he's just such a colorful guy, and he was such an impact. I only had him for I think 2 years, but I've been very lucky with like him, and Steve Metcalf was a big one. I got to see him a little while ago up at Steiner. Bo Bertagnoli was a guy. He was with the U for a while. That's one I loved. John Pushkar, my 18s. I've been very, very lucky with coaches here. But Max a unique personality, and for 4 rings is unbelievable. And I think that was one of those pieces when I moved out here and seeing how much smaller of a community it was out here, although very tight. That was one of those people where I was like, okay, like this guy knows what he's doing. Like we're in good hands here. So that's a good team.
And I like the coolest thing for me was kind of the same thing. Like he just took me under his wing, and like just an unbelievable dude. And just like the things he did for me, like getting recruited and like just like he was like a tough guy and he was hard on you.
Yeah.
And like he gives off this like tough guy persona, and like obviously he is kind of a nutcase, but like an absolute teddy bear at the same time. I remember one specific this is like a great summary of like his personality. So we're at the Oval and we're like coming off the ice from practice, and you know how you have to like come down the stairs, and then there's like the little hallway with all the benches and stuff. So there's some kids like jumping on the benches and stuff, and he just gives them this like, hey, look, what are you doing? And then they're like scared out of their mind. Like everyone look up Kevin McClellan and you see a picture of him and imagine being an 8-year-old kid getting yelled at by like
he's
this
got that
guy.
look in his eye.
Yeah,
I'll kill you look.
Yeah, and so he like gives him like he's pissed off, and they're like, oh my gosh, and he's like, how you guys doing? Like all nice guy, like they're like, oh good. I'm like, bro, like those guys.
I think it's good to have at a young age though too.
Oh yeah,
like that he was such an impact on me being that intense. I've always responded well to tougher coaches. I don't know how you guys are, but like I always respond well to the getting yelled at and the getting the line and the occasional swears behind the bench when you're young. I responded very well to it. I think he was a great example of having the balance of that. So
That's something I've actually been surprised at in Utah is how many really good coaches there are here. It's kind of random because it's like, how do you get here? And I guess with Park City and if you have money and stuff, that's a natural place to land. But I've been really surprised by some of the people I find out like, oh, your dad coached the New Jersey Devils to a Stanley Cup. Like, okay, that's crazy, and you're here coaching U12 single A Grizzlies, it's just interesting to hear stuff like that in Utah. So
well, that's what's funny is like I was actually thinking about this the other day. Like some of my coaches, like you have Matt Green, like captain of Shattuck St. Mary's, like unbelievable. You got Tim Hale, like I think there's a Minnesota D1 team.
yeah,
that he played for.
three-time national champion, 1-time runner-up. Very unreal.
Tim Hale's a legend, dude. And so it's like, yeah, like I was just thinking about this. I'm like, holy freak, dude!
You
Like
coach in high school in Utah.
Yeah,
That's crazy. That's crazy.
yeah. So like I'm with you, where it's like we're pretty blessed in Utah for like how small like hockey is here. Like some good coaches
I
there.
have nobody I can really complain about. Like, I'll be completely honest. Since I've been here, there hasn't been one where I'm like, I don't know, but I've been very lucky, very lucky.
Yeah, I'll be curious how the impact having a team like 20 years from now, because you already know Trevor Lewis, he's from here, he'll be back, and like fourth liners are always pretty good coaches. Just I don't know why, but that's kind of the thing. Is usually it's a fourth line player.
Hey, why are you looking at me?
Is that what the pause name after? Like, yes. Dude, that's an unreal coach. I also tease.
That's funny. But yeah, like
Say with dating advice. If you need dating advice from me, I got you. Coaches don't play though.
it's good. It's good. Yeah, but I'll be curious what happens with some of these guys if they do end up back here, and just the impact that'll have on youth hockey. Because you got to think. I mean, you sent that picture the other day of Larry Markkinen's kid is playing youth hockey in Utah now. He's
Lar-
ready.
Laurie Marketing, if your kid needs some private lessons, hit my line. The fourth line podcast.
We got some camps and clinics coming up too.
If Laurie Markkinen is listening to this podcast, Laurie, come be on the pod. Let's chat, dude. But like, you got to think some of these guys that with these kids they're having, if they do stick around, they're gonna hop into county hockey or whatever, and that'll be really cool. So
It'll be pretty sick to see some of these kids coming up in Utah. And like you and I coming from out of state and coming to Utah, like how was that transition? Like when you look back at your development in Utah, like at the time, obviously it's a little bit different now, but would you say that it was near the standard of what it was in California, or was California behind Utah? Like how did that compare when you got here?
I think I wish we had the hockey club now, and I wish it was at this. I wish it was like this back then, but I think I was very lucky with West Coast. I don't have a bad word to say about West Coast either. I thoroughly enjoyed my time there. I never once thought about leaving. It's very popular amongst kids in Utah to want to look somewhere else. And I think we've seen a lot of that. And granted, like I've had a few buddies who have gone off to Colorado or to up north or Dallas, whatever it is. But we had a really tight-knit group my 03 year. And we kind of like all stayed together throughout our years at West Coast. Like I have kids who I played with for like 8-9 years. Like from the moment I moved here to the moment I graduated high school, like we all played together. And I think that had a lot to do with it as well. And I feel like staying in California, granted, they have the Junior Kings, the Junior Ducks. They have a lot of big organizations out there, but I feel like I got the same development out here. And I feel like although it is a lot smaller, it is very tight knit. Like I have conversations to this day with like buddies in the locker room or on the bus, like, oh, so you played with so and so, or oh yeah, I played with so and so, or oh yeah, we were roommates my 16th year up at whatever, or we went to this camp together. So I think although it is small, like I said, I feel like having it be as tight knit as it is a benefit that I wish more people could see, and I think it gets lost in markets like a California or back east or the Michigans and the Chicagos and the Colorados. I think it gets lost there. So
That's awesome, because that's one of the biggest concerns that Kayden and I get from a lot of parents, are kids kind of making that transition from 14, 15 years old, and they're turning, 16, or they're getting into their later time of 15, and they're questioning, do we keep them in Utah?
yeah,
Do we send them out to Colorado? Do we send them to California?
Yeah.
We send them to these other places. Whereas, WR now is, from what I hear, they have a great program. You have great things to say about it. Like, does WR give you the opportunity to like go on to play further after your time there? Like, how did that look for you? How did that look for some of your teammates?
Oh, for sure. I think not just them. I think like the junior Mustangs, I've seen like a few kids over the last few years like come out of there where I'm like, okay, like these kids are the real deal. And I think West Coast for us, like again, like we played in competitive leagues, we played in competitive showcases. Granted, in the early years, it was tough, and the win column didn't look too great. But as we went on and on, our 16s and 18s year, we were really competitive. I remember our 18s year, we knocked off like the number 12 team in the country. It was Florida Alliance. We were in Chicago. We beat them like 7-2. So it gives you the opportunity to play against the top talent and to get looked at. And one of my good buddies growing up, Logan Nielsen, he's now playing pro out in England for a team that his dad's a legend for, and I doubt that Logan will ever leave it. But he was with us at West Coast for 4 or 5 years, and there's plenty of guys like that who have gone on to play at higher levels. So although my aspirations were always null or USHL and if I can NCAA D1, even though I didn't make it there, I definitely had the opportunity. Just if the things get in the way and life gets in the way. I dealt with my shoulder injury my junior year. I got a labrum repair at the end of my junior year, and it was right around COVID as well. So I couldn't recover all the way. And my senior year, when we ended up having a full season with West Coast, where I actually played more games that COVID year than I did the previous year without COVID, which is kind of crazy. But I ended up dislocating it like 10 more times. on these showcases and stuff. So it just kind of put me behind, but the opportunity was definitely there. And I for to anyone out there like who's thinking about it, like I've always been on the side of keep your kid here, because if it was that good for me back then and for you back then, like just imagine where it is now and where it's going to be as these organizations keep popping up. And I think a big part of it too is like it's going to get cheaper too. I think that was a big part of the move from having the Utah Hockey Club here, is like all these, you see these programs popping up like crazy, and you guys doing your thing, coaching these kids, and all these youth programs are going to keep growing and growing and growing, and the game's just going to get more accessible. So I already had that access back then with West Coast, but I think it's just going to get even better.
So one thing to add to that, I think having a guy like Kevin McClellan, at least from my point of view, like going to these tournaments, like the Chicago Bauer World Invite and all these places, and having a guy like Kevin McClellan, like that was another thing he would tell us all the time, like, dude, like these coaches are going to come talk to me and I'm going to let them know exactly how I feel about you. Like, if you're lazy, I'll let them know. Like, if you work your freaking... He had some colorful language.
Yeah, you're telling. You're telling.
I could say it for you if you want. You just buzz in if you want.
I'm good.
But like having that guy, like going to these tournaments, like you're gonna get the exposure that you need to get to the right place. Like
For sure.
so that at least that was my point of view, and like it hit you hard when he would say stuff like that. Like, ooh,
Mac was awesome for that. Dave Monty, unfortunately, he's not around West Coast anymore, but he was a guy that was huge for that, and he almost acted like as an agent for like all of us. Like he was usually like an unpaid agent, basically, for a bunch of dumb 16-year-old kids playing West Coast. But having guys like that definitely helps. So,
so it's like if the skill's there and like the work ethic's there, like you're gonna get. You know, like they're gonna find you.
Yeah,
they're gonna
find you.
you.
It doesn't matter where you are. Someone will find you.
Totally. Let's talk UVU. So for our listeners that don't know, Utah Valley, they're kind of a newer team in the ACHA. In the early 2000s, they had a pretty solid program, arguably probably the best program in Utah at the time. They were a few, how do we describe, a few business people away from getting the nod to be an NCAA D1 team, and it eventually led to the team folding altogether due to some off-ice, as I understand, behavioral.
Yeah, a long time ago, but
And that was early 2000s. That was like a while ago. And a few years back, UVU kind of had a revival, and they joined the ACHA as a D2 team. There was BYU, Weber State, Utah, and USU that were all competing at the D2 level. And so for you, how did you land at UVU?
So, I mean, graduating high school and kind of around that time toward the end of that 18th year with West Coast, I knew I wasn't going to the NOL, and I wasn't going to the USHL, and I wasn't going to make it originally where I wanted to go with hockey. And I was completely fine quitting and not playing anymore. Like it wasn't bugging me. I was just like, you know what? It's kind of the end of the road. And I was okay with it. So that fall of my senior year, like after graduating, I just decided to go to UVU just to get a few generals done, just get a few classes done. Like I didn't know what I wanted to do at the time. But I just knew like, okay, like let's just get a little bit of progress done. Like out of high school, just start it up a little bit. And it's a funny story. I was down at Peaks on a date doing public skate with she who shall not be named. We won't put the name out there.
Was she blonde?
Yeah, but we were there and I was skating.
About himself. Wait, is she single? She's still single?
But anyways, we were at Peaks, and of course, being a hockey player, I brought my own skates. So we were out there skating, and coincidentally, UVU was playing on the other side, on the north rink. I couldn't tell you who they were playing, but the conversation just got around to me playing hockey. Obviously, like I was okay with not playing anymore, but it was still a huge part of my life, as it is all of ours. So just got into talking about that while I wasn't playing anymore. And, you know, I'll never forget it. She just looked at me and she was like, you know, why did you stop? Like, why aren't you still playing? And I kind of just like changed the subject because I was like, I don't really want to talk about hockey right now. Like, I know you just playing over there. I was like, I really don't want to talk about it. And like clockwork, about a week later, I think it was like through like my parents' Facebook or something, Darren Peck found out that I was going to UVU, and of course shot me a few paragraph long texts while I was at the gym. I remember I was sitting in the locker room at the gym, and if you know Darren, he'll shoot you a text, and without hesitating, he'll call you right after, so you have no chance to read what the hell he's talking about. So I got the text. I ended up talking to him for a little bit, and he was just kind of explaining the ACHA to me. I had no idea what the ACHA was. I had no idea you guys had a team at BYU. I had no idea about USU or Weber or whatever. Just because like I was so dialed into West Coast, and okay, I'm gonna go play in the NAL or the USHL. I had no idea what was going on here, and he kind of explained it to me about what was going on, and one thing led to another. I came out to a practice a few weeks after that just to kind of see. I hadn't been on the ice outside of that public skate in like 10 months. And I think like the ignorance of what the league was and kind of just like being arrogant to what the ACHA was and like the competition level really helped me, because I was able to just like play free. And I got out to that skate, and UVU definitely wasn't the best at the time as far as the talent was. But I got out there and I was like, okay, like this could be fun. And the next day, guess who they were playing? You boys down at Peaks. So I came out to watch that. And it was a Devin Bain masterclass, even though you guys beat us.
I already know what game he's talking about.
You guys beat us 4-2.
No, that was literally like every game.
Well, there was the 42 one that
I think it was.
It was 4-2.
Was it 4-2 or was it 4-3? Because I thought we were tied 3-3. Ammon passed it to the back door, and I touched the fourth one, and we won by. I thought we won by.
I would bet money it was 4-2, but I remember when I was at that skate, Boehner, who for those that don't know is the best goalie that I've ever played with. He's just a down earth dude. I love him to death. He's like a brother to me. But we met at that skate, and I had no idea who this kid was. And part of my phone call with Peck like that week before, half of it was about Devin Bain and him selling him to me, kind of. So at this practice, he was one of the guys that was just coming up to me and being like, hey, like we could really use you. Like I'd love to have you here. My name's Devin, yada, yada. So at this game, I just sat behind him the whole time. And, in the first period, I was behind him on the glass. And I went over during the second and was still behind him on the other side. And then the third period back to him. And just, I think you guys put up like 70, 75 shots.
We peppered him
And
every single game. And he stand on his
swear,
head.
I don't know what his problem was with BYU, but he would like play at another level because he's like talented. He's talented playing everyone else too. Like he would make 45, 50 saves like it was nothing.
Oh, yeah.
But against us, it was just like, dude, are we playing Dominic Hasek? What's going on? Like, we can't even get anything past it.
Yeah.
I mean,
crazy.
Kayden and I have this debate all the time of best Utah goalie, and it's hands down like Devin Bain or Ben Smith. Like you put either of those two boys up against each other, and that's a neck and neck.
Well, Boehner too, like the way I describe Boehner is like as a defenseman, I'll lay my body on the line for that guy any night, and I think the rest of our guys who's played for Bain would say the same. Like that's just a guy like you want to win for. Like that's the way I describe Boehner. So that game where I was watching you guys play him, I sat behind him the whole time. He just kept looking over at me and giving me the nod. And I also too, I think not just that, but seeing the crowds that you guys used to pull at Peaks. Of course, that was my first experience watching a UVU hockey game, so I expected it to be that way for the rest. And I saw that and I was like, this is sweet. There's chicks up in the stands. This place is packed. Boehner's on top of his stuff. And I think I was sold just with that. So Bain, seeing that crowd, I think coming out to that skate, and then obviously the day at Peaks Ice Arena, I think all kind of played into me signing there. And in all honesty, I know the record hasn't been great since I've been there, but it's given me 4 more years of hockey that I didn't have.
Right.
And I think it's frustrating at times because us right now, like this year, we would mop the floor with that team that I joined my first year, and we have gotten so much better, but so has every other team in the state, and so has the ACHA as a whole, which at times is frustrating because I'm like, shoot, it would be nice to go out and just dominate the Utah State one night in their barn or or be on top of the table in the rankings. But I try and look at it as like, you know what, at least it is that competitive. Like at least the ACHA has gotten to a point where it is that competitive, and Utah hockey, Utah Hockey Club aside, like we've grown it enough to where it is that competitive at the college level. And I try looking at it that way, where like at West Coast, like, you know, okay, and you know this, like we never play here. Like we never have games here. I think throughout my 6 years, we had one weekend of games in Utah, and it was against Wenatchee down at Peaks. So like I never got to play in front of like my family and friends. I'm very lucky that my family was able to make a lot of the trips with West Coast, back east, Dallas, you know, Nashville, whatever. But they weren't able to make all of them. And like all like my friends from school, like they never got to see me do what I love. And I think that is, if there's anything I've gotten from UVU, it's that. It's like having like that experience of like, hey, like my buddies are gonna come out, or like, hey, this chick's gonna come out to this game, or and that is something that I never really got throughout my youth, you know, time playing hockey. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
And let me ask you this question too. For a lot of the high school kids that we have listening to the podcast that have the same aspirations that you do to go on to play juniors, and we know a couple of them that are going to a couple showcases in the next little bit. For those players that don't get that opportunity for whatever reason, don't get picked up, why play ACHA hockey?
I think exactly what I just said. Like it's 4 more years of hockey. I think you're gonna look back in 10, 15 years, like when I'm working another job, or I've got my career figured out outside of hockey. I'm gonna look back and be like, you know what, I got 4 more years competitively out of the game that I love. And I think the like I said, the biggest part of it for me has been to be able to play in front of people that I care about, and I think that's something that not a lot of people think about when they go to play ACHA. And I wish that a lot of like my buddies from the West Coast days would have done. And one of my good buddies, Jack Nowicki, who's now tearing it up at the U for their Division II team, who you know, we played together for many years, and he just got back. This is his first year, or this is his second year now with the U. And I think like if you were to ask him, he's probably getting the same thing, where he gets to play in front of these people, and he gets to have that experience playing, you know, 30 minutes away from his hometown. So.
And how is the competition in the ACHA with, you know, what you had at WR, or just like any of those big tournaments that you played at as a kid when you were traveling? Like, is the level of play still pretty high, or is it lower than what you expected? Like,
it's high enough where it still scratches that competitive itch that I have, you know. And like granted, there's teams in the middle of the pack, kind of like we are, and then, you know, we're very lucky in the state to have 3 top dogs right now with the U and Weber, and up at Logan at Utah State. So you kind of get a variety of all of that, which I think is really cool. And like, to me, like I've never been like a big like drop-in guy or a men's league guy, just because for me it just doesn't itch that competitiveness, whereas the ACHA has. And it still keeps me involved. Like, I still have to take care of my body. We're very lucky at UVU to have a great medical staff and a great training staff, and they take care of us very well too. So it's like, you know, I get to focus on that side of it as well, and keeping in shape and making sure that I feel good while playing too. So it's covered a lot for me. But, you know, like I said, more than anything, it's given me 4 more years of hockey that I didn't have. And record or not, you know, like I said, at least it is that competitive where it is tougher. So
I think one thing too that I think about, like, so we had a year together at UVU.
correct, yeah.
So I got done with BYU. BYU obviously got rid of the program. I was trying to decide, should I go to UVU? Like, what should I do? And obviously made the decision to go. And I look back at my UVU days, and I think about one specific road trip of probably one of the most legendary rooms of all time.
Oh yeah.
Me, you, Jaden, and Hunter Ray.
Oh yeah.
Legendary room.
The Harry Potter marathon room. Saw baby the whole track.
I like talk about that. Just like the people that you like. I look at that, like, you 3 are like, I freaking love you guys, and just like, you know, just like,
I've
and that friendship, you know, like,
like we've been very lucky at UVU too, like with guys that I've been able to meet. And I think, looking back to that year 2 years ago, it was a really much older team too than we have now. And I think getting that experience of, Shimbashi running around with his kids in the locker room, like, holy cow, this is not West Coast anymore. This guy's got a kid and he's in the stall next to me. But like guys like that have been so good to me, and it's honestly been some of my favorite years of hockey. And just because we've all been that close. And this year we're really young, which is crazy for me being one of the older guys, and I'm only 21. But I'm in the top 3-4 for oldest, which is kind of crazy. But it's been so fun, and I think UVU too. I think it has the benefits of a big school, but for me, it's the cost of a small school. So it's really checked all the boxes for me. And this year in particular, we've had a great group of guys, but that year with the Hammonds and the Eisenstats and those guys, that was a fun year. So in bags, so bags. Miss him so much.
Well, I think that's one thing I would say to people that are maybe closed-minded to the ACHA. It really is interesting because unlike, I didn't play juniors, but I feel like unlike juniors, when you reach like the college level, you're really playing out of love. Like you're
100%.
You're busy with homework and dating, and some guys have kids. Like
yeah.
And so it's like all of those guys that are playing, it's because they love the game and because they want to win. And for me, like I had played travel before, but there were kids that I feel like maybe were there because their older brothers played on that team or whatever. Like it was the first time where I was like, okay, everybody here is bought in. Like when we go to the gym, like everyone was all in together. Even like just going over film, like everyone was dialed in. No one was goofing around on their phones. Like everyone was focused on the, except maybe Chase, I guess, but everyone was focused on.
I know, just figured. I have a video of Alex Bears. I don't know if we were dialed in on your film, but
okay, maybe not. But like, it was just, it's really cool to see that like you really get what you give in that sense with club hockey. Like you'll play some teams that it's like, okay, you guys are treating this like men's league, or you'll play some your USUs, your Weber States that it's like, you guys are serious. Like you practice every day. Clearly this is a big deal for you. You're making sacrifices to be here, and it's just really cool to see. I wanted to talk a second about, so BYU historically, they had been a dumpster fire team. I have memories of going up to the University of Utah and watching them get smoked like 18-0. And it was about like those last 5 years that there started to be like a slow incline in like the wins and in the talent that was showing up. And we're starting to see that incline is starting to like steepen with UVU a little bit.
Yeah.
I think of Keegan Clark. It's like Buddy was at the tier 2 nationals, and he was on the MVP. 5 like MVP, like left wing. Keegan Clark was the best player in the country. Like, and he landed at UVU. Like, how are you seeing, like, why are these players coming to play at UVU, do you think?
I think for me, what I've seen is just the culture of it, and like I said, like the record hasn't been what I dreamed of, but we've just had such a close knit group over all 4 years, and back to that year, I don't think there was a group that was closer. There's some things got in the way toward the end, but we had a really tight knit group, and this year more than ever I've had that. And we got so many young guys. My D partner Tyler Osborne, he's got a few years on me, but he's like one of my favorite people I ever met. And there's so many kids. I call them kids, even though they're like 2-3 years younger than me. But it's that culture of just enjoying it, and like you said, like being here for the right reason, and buying into being a solid program and being professional. I think. At UVU too, it's unique. I saw a stat. I don't know if it's true, so don't quote me on it. But I think we're the largest school population-wise to not have a football program in the country. I'm pretty sure that's a real stat. And all the other athletic programs are pretty tight-knit. So like we're very close with the lacrosse team over the last few years. Women's volleyball we've gotten close with this year. So
Big deal. All right, I'm going back, please. So there you go. So like, we'll go out to their games. They'll come out and support us. We had a game 2 weeks ago against the U. It was the first time the president of the school had been out to a club sports program or game, which was like a huge deal for us. So I think seeing that growth and kind of the camaraderie that's been built around UVU, and then again, like we've knocked off a few of the big teams. Like we beat University of Montana a few weeks ago. That was a big deal for us. That was a big deal for us. I wasn't playing. I got kicked out the day before, so I was kicking boots the whole time. I was so pissed I wasn't in that one. But like we got that one done. 2 years ago we knocked off Weber, and then their season opener up at Weber. Like that was a big.
That was one of my favorites. A senior night, didn't you?
Senior. That was the year. That was like right before I got there, I think. But like I've heard stories of that one too. So there's a lot of like those I can point to. I'm like, okay, we're getting closer and closer. And this year I think too, like I said, we've got such a tight knit group, and we're so young that. Unfortunately, like I'm kind of on my way out, but I think the trajectory is in a very good direction. I think it's in a really good direction. I plan to stick around, whether it be coaching or helping out on the ice, whatever that is in the future too. So I'm very excited to be a part of it, and I'm very very grateful for my 4 years here. So
It's awesome.
yeah.
And just maybe one last question before we let you go. We're recording during the hockey club game. They're playing the Canadians right now, so you want to get back to it. But where do you see this team going? Did you guys have like a goal that you made before the season? What was that chat like? Was there a hope?
Yeah, I there's been a few, and they always like most teams they center around winning, and I think. But my goal since I've been at UVU, I told Darren this the day that I signed after they lost to you guys, and I went downstairs and signed that little paper right after. I said I want to win a Utah Cup. I said that is my goal. And I said if we can be the number one team in the state, like then I'll be satisfied, and we've come a long way. This year we unfortunately haven't beaten the team in the state yet, so I don't know how that's going to look this year. But that's been a goal of mine, and I think like doing that as a coach in a few years would check that box for me. But I think we're all bought into let's grow this thing, and then let's just ride with this, and let's see what we can make out of it. All of our guys are very bought into getting out there and getting sponsorships and going to the school and handing out tickets and doing promotional stuff. We got a sponsor from Mutual, the dating app, this year, and last week we filmed like a little promo for them, or we like answer like the dating prompts on the app, and so like there's stuff like that where we're all trying to stay very involved in. And like I said, it's just been fun, and I think we have great examples out here too. Like I'll never trash on any of the other in-state teams just because I respect them, and USU is the one to me where I'm like, I don't know how they do it up there. I don't know how they pack that barn every day. I don't know how they're making this much money. I don't know how they're making these new jerseys every semester. It's like we want to get to that point, and I think we're steadily on our way there, and I've definitely seen it. I've been very lucky in the last 4 years to seeing it just skyrocket, in my opinion. So it's been cool.
That's awesome. Well, we've absolutely loved having you on the pod. More than anything, we absolutely love you and those boys in the locker room at UVU. We're absolutely stoked to watch you. To finish out this semester and also next semester. Who knows? You come back from Christmas break.
You never know.
Those guys are drinking. You guys stay on top of it. And maybe you sneak out of Utah.
There we go. Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see if we can knock a few of them off. So
You see some crazy things happen in the second semester. Like we've seen it every year. Just
happens every year.
A team will go from a few failed classes, and you never know.
We've got Boehner back now, and he's starting to catch his stride. So I feel good about it. But like I said too, it's more just about enjoying it, and I don't care really if we're not winning every game. It's more just having that competitiveness here is something I've never had, and it really does mean the world to me. So.
Yeah. Those are the best memories to look back on. We talk about it all the time, and it's not really the games or the scores that we really remember. It's the times in the locker room, getting food after, running around. Like those are the times to enjoy. So I'm glad that you're absolutely loving your time, and super grateful to have you here, man.
Yeah, this was fun.
Yeah, that was cool, guys. Thank you. Well, thank you guys for listening. We want to invite you to go to a UVU game or just to support whatever local college team is in your area. Really, like these club teams, they're self-funded. They get little to no funding from the school at all, so they rely on you and that little $5 ticket you buy to get in to pay for their season. And so, especially UVU, it kind of hits close to home without BYU having the team now to. Let's keep hockey in Utah Valley, because it really is an awesome barn to play in, and it's a really cool experience. So thank you guys for listening. It's Fourth Line Boys signing off. Later.